Andy,
It's in Tampa. I don't remember what this was, because I remember they had those 2 cops in Miami that got killed. I mean, Tampa's a big city, so I guess stuff happens. I don't pay attention to the news much. I guess these are the 2 guys.
This was his destiny, and he was supposed to die in the line of duty on January 24th.
Through hundreds of flowers, cards, and teddy bears, friends, colleagues, and even strangers have honored Sergeant Thomas Badinger.
It's another job too where you don't know, today could be your last day or you could retire. I mean, not many people ever got hurt at the base I was at, but I mean, when I was a firefighter, that was in the back of your mind, you know. You could wake up and nothing could happen today, or you could go into a burning building and that could be it. And no one ever really thought about it, or
well, you know,
it was your job too.
You can't afford to think about it.
No.
You couldn't do it if you kept it up front and personal. You couldn't deal with it. You have to let it go.
There was one person at the fire school, because we had practice fires where they used propane, and they would have a big, like, 4-story metal building, and the building would be outfitted with, like, propane nozzles, and they would light it on fire, so it would look like it was on fire, you know. And you would spray it with the water hose, and water doesn't put, like, a propane fire out. But they would, like, turn it off if they think you're doing a good job. But it's supposed to get you used to fire. And the other thing it does, you know, and you're wearing all your equipment, and it gets really hot in there, like a real fire. So it gives you confidence in your equipment. But it's supposed to weed out the people who, when they see fire like that, they panic, and they can't deal with it. And there was a kid like that, where the first time he went to go do a practice fire, it was really small, like, you know, something in the corner, like a flame, like, you know, this big or something. He ran out, you know, and then, you know, later he got some arm injury, and, you know, he couldn't do it, and they put him in the office to help the people who ran the office part of our training school. And, you know, I guess he just got reassigned somewhere else or something, but he just kept to his story that his arm was hurt, like he wore a sling, and everyone's just like, his arm's not hurt. Like, he didn't break it, like he didn't sprain it, it's just, it hurts, so I can't go into the fire. I don't think he ever found it. His nerve? Yeah. All the other firefighters, they were like, fire? Where is it? You know, I need more. I mean, you know me. I like fire. I like when things blow up. And like I said, I got all the stuff on. I went in there. You don't get hurt.
Eddie used to like that too. He used to, I think he still does or not, he used to set little things, you know, fix them where he set them on fire, burn the soldiers, or do crazy stuff. And his bedroom was upstairs. And I was always, when he was home, I was always afraid that he was going to catch our house on fire. And we would have no place to live. But I also knew if it did, he'd probably die in the fire too.
Yeah.
His room was upstairs.
Problems with the crowd control here tonight.
All right, thank you,
And
Lauren.
he
We'll be checking back
always
in with you a
done
little later
crazy
tonight.
things
Now,
with
friends
the
and family
matches.
back about church tomorrow for the funeral.
And we'd spank
Officials
him, we'd
estimate more
take
than
stuff away
10,000
from
people
him,
could
we'd
turn out for that
lecture
service.
him, we
They are
did.
planning to set
It
up
just
big
was
monitors
no,
outside to accommodate the crowd.
you know, he'd
Now,
do
that's
something
expected to
anyway.
begin at 11 o'clock, of course, including police honors, a flyover,
But
and
now,
21-gun salute. News 9 will bring you that
24/7,
coverage live.
unless Eddie was had a job he was working out,
Also
he was up in
tomorrow,
that
your
room with the
chance
door
to reach
shut.
out to those
Yeah.
hurting
He
families.
stayed to
T-shirts
himself.
are going
Still
on
like
sale
that.
to honor the lives of those officers.
I don't know, why do you think he's like that? Why do you think so?
To not only
Some
remember the
mental
officers'
thing, I
sacrifice, but
guess.
raise money
I think
for
so.
the wives and children. They'll be available tomorrow at the police department for $15.
But he always was that way.
Organizers say every
And
single
I'd buy
penny of
him
that price
little,
will
you
go to
know,
the
cars
families.
and trucks and
We have heroes out there
stuff,
that are,
and he used
you
to
know, their families are suffering right now.
paint them and
we're all
stuff, and then
suffering
he'd
as
catch,
police
put
officers,
stuff
as
on it and
community.
burn them to where they'd be half
And
burned up.
this is just
And
a small piece of the way to give back to these people.
The group had a similar drive last year after the deaths of the 2 Tampa police officers. They raised $30,000 for those families. Now, for more details on how you can buy the shirts honoring the St. Pete officers or donate to a memorial fund already set up, go to baynews9.com. There you can also leave your condolences for those
I mean,
loved ones.
well, what was it like when he lived in Virginia? Because he lived there till he was like 17, right?
Pasco County dad says,
Or how old was he when you guys moved?
Eddie was born and raised in Maryland.
Yeah.
In Rockville.
Boy, I always get Virginia and Maryland mixed up, sorry.
Yeah. Now we had a little farmhouse in Virginia. We'd go for vacation, or if we got a long weekend, we'd go home. But he spent most of his life in Maryland. But he was that way at home in Maryland. He was not a mixer. He was quiet, stayed to himself. He not only stayed in his room, but he'd shut the door behind him when he went in, so you didn't know what he was up
Jalen and his father, Sean Jackson, say the bullying didn't end there. Instead, it took on a racial tone.
They're making fun of me. They asked if my grandmother was a slave.
Jalen says this hurt more than the physical attack.
It made me feel very sad and disappointed.
The Pasco County School District offered this
The
response.
kid told him, he's like, I was
The situation
disappointed
was
in them.
immediately addressed, with appropriate discipline being administered to the students involved. We have high expectations.
Yeah, see,
for
this
student
day and
behavior
age, there's
that are
no
strictly
excuse
enforced.
for that. Everybody's better educated, and for parents who would let a child get away with that, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Jackson would like to see the school offer some type
But
of
you know,
counseling to the alleged bullies.
I
In the
guess
meantime, he's filing a report with the
when I
sheriff's
was
office
growing
to
up
prevent this
in our
from
end
ever
of Virginia,
happening to
they
his son
weren't a
again.
whole lot of
In Pasco
black
County,
people where
Melanie
we
Snow,
were.
Baby's
But
9.
Well, Sean
my
Jackson
dad
says he
worked
doesn't
for a
intend
logging
filing charges
company,
against the other
and
kids, but he
we
does
lived
want the
up
school to know
in
this
this
type of
holler, they
behavior
called us,
should
where
be
two
taken
hills,
more
you know, and this
seriously. Jackson
down
says hate
and
crimes
it's lower.
are different
They
than
called it a
typical bullying
holler.
behavior and should
So
be
the
handled
little house we
differently.
lived in was in one
So
of
tense
those
moments in
places.
St. Petersburg
And
today,
up further
high
in
levels
that
of gas
place was
cleared out
another
a
house,
dozen businesses.
a
Firefighters
good bit,
evacuated the area
I don't
along
know,
First Avenue
probably
North. Turns out it wasn't just one gas
probably
leak,
as
but
far
several
as,
problems at 4 businesses. Officials let all the buildings air out
Oh,
for
I don't
several
know.
hours before giving the all clear. The owners
almost
will
as far
make
as
repairs
here
to
up
keep
to
this
the
from
second
happening
traffic
again.
light going up the road.
It's like deja vu
But
for frequent
these
fires tonight. Another
couple
blast of
lived
winter
up
weather
there, and their
grounding
name was
airplanes along the
Mary and
East
Bob.
Coast.
Well, I had an Aunt
International
Mary.
Day,
Can you turn that down a little?
more than a dozen
Sorry.
flights or delayed
Huh?
because
Can you
of
turn the
problems
TV
in
down a
the
little?
Northeast. Major hubs in New York
Oh.
and Boston
Just they get loud and they talk about annoying stuff. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, thank you.
Oh, but I would go up there and talk to her, and she was just as black as the ace of spades, and I called her Aunt Mary, and she put me on the bench behind her table, and she'd give me a jelly biscuit, and we'd sit and talk. I thought she was the most wonderful thing in the world. So I grew up, you know, color was not a problem. And then later on, when they had the riots in D.C. and stuff, this woman I worked with, Maggie Magruder, she was as black as she could get. But we worked together, and I really liked her, and she liked me, so we got along, you know, just great. We're almost like sisters. We went into this department store in Bethesda, and we walked in, and I guess we were running our mouths and laughing, as we usually did. We got just inside the store a little bit, and they were having a sale on something, but anyway, it was like the store had 3 stories, you know, but we walked in, and when we walked in and we're laughing and talking, and I didn't know what happened, but all at once it was really quiet in there. Nobody was saying anything, and everybody was kind of acting like they were looking at something, then they weren't, but it was just so awful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're walking through, and Maggie always looked like a fashion plate. She had real pretty clothes, and she, you know, took good care of herself and all. And me, I just went in whatever I could find. So I kept checking. I looked to see if my stockings were dragging or if I'd lost something. And Maggie said, "Oh, what is wrong with with you? And I said, something like, well, that's what I'm trying to find out. Why are these people acting like that? I assumed it was me.
Mm-hmm.
And she laughed. She said, oh, you don't know what the problem is? And I said, no, if you tell me, let me fix it. And I'm still thinking, you know, I had to be doing something wrong because she always looked perfect. She said, stop it. Well, you're going to tear your clothes off of you, and I'm not going to walk with you. You go around here with no clothes on. But she said, the problem is, you're white and I'm black. We shouldn't be walking together, and we certainly shouldn't be laughing and talking. So that's the problem. And I thought, oh, you know, and I looked around and people were, you know, they were like away from us. I said, shoot.
There's like a giant empty circle around you.
Yeah, so I said, shoot, that's all it is. Come on, let's go shop like we came down here to do. We had to go buy something. I said, let's go buy it and get it over with. We went up the elevator. Nobody got on an escalator. Nobody got on the escalator with us until we were closer to the top, and then they started coming up. But I guess that day I was lucky somebody didn't beat the tar out of me that I was being friendly with a black person. That really shocked me. And then one time I went to her house after work, and her sister-in-law was there. She lived in D.C., a big old fat black woman, and she was really ugly. But she said when we come in, she looked at me and looked at Maggie, you know, like, what the hell, what's going on here? And so we went in laughing and talking. We sat down, and Maggie said, I'll go make us a pot of coffee. And the woman standing back behind us, you know, like, she said, I'll make the coffee. And oh, she said it like, you know, I'm going to cram the pot down her throat because she knows she's not supposed to be here.
You know what would have been a good joke if you go, I take my coffee black. That would have really got him
I mean,
going.
that woman was huge. She was big, and she looked at me like she could have eaten me and spit me out. She just, and what in the world was I doing in her neighborhood? You know, I'm on her space, and I still couldn't figure out because, you know, Maggie and I, we'd been friends we'd worked together for probably 8 years, and so you know, she's just a friend. Color never. Well, I never had a problem with color anyway. But I never thought about it. And Maggie said, don't you know what the problem is, Opal? I'm get a new friend, you're just so stupid. And I said, no. She said, the problem is you're white and I'm black, and we should not be sitting or walking together, and definitely shouldn't be laughing and talking. That is not acceptable. Oh, great. If that's all it is, then let's go do what we got to do and don't worry about them.
Exactly.
But Ed said I was being stupid, not because he liked Maggie too, but he said people like that were dragging me out and beating the tar out of me because, you know, I'm not acting right, so. The only time I had trouble at Maggie's house when her sister-in-law was there was she gave us coffee. She gave me a cup that was white, and the coffee cup she gave Maggie was dark, and that just scared us half to death. I couldn't drink my coffee. I thought I'd choke on it if I put it in my mouth. I was so scared because that woman was huge.
Yeah.
And she didn't talk, so it wasn't she was bad-mouthing me or anything, but just the looks she gave me, you know. And I knew if she decided to hit me, I'd roll for the rest of my life. She's so big. And I got stuck on that again, and Maggie said, Opal, what is wrong now? What's wrong? And I said, nothing, sorry. And she said, no, come on, spit it out, what is it? And I said, my coffee cup. And she said, what's wrong with your coffee cup? And I said, it's white and yours is black. And she told me I should leave. She said, you know, if she knew anybody at the Washington Post, she'd have them come and take my picture. What a stupid friend she had. That was scary though. You didn't know. People walked the streets, they yelled things at you. Even if you weren't, the black would throw things at your car, the whites would throw things at the blacks' cars. They threatened you. Oh, it was awful. You weren't safe to go anywhere by yourself. And anywhere you didn't absolutely have to go, you didn't go. And if you did go, you'd go while it was still daylight outside. You didn't go out at night. It was awful. They burned people's houses, cars, shot at people. It was awful.
It sounds bad. I mean, I know Washington D.C. is still pretty violent, but I don't think it's that bad. But it's not too good either.
No, it's always been a challenge. But you know, Washington D.C. is like a melting pot. You have people from all over the world there, and everyone feels like they're at priority. Instead of just taking your space and using it to your advantage. You know, like now we see different colors, different people. You know, I don't pay any attention to them, so I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, that pass me I don't even notice because, you know, they have as much right to be here as me, and I don't stare at people.
Yeah.
But back then it was a real problem, and not only, I mean, people would hit you, you know, shoot you, cut you with a knife, or burn your house. It was awful. D.C. had an awful lot of houses that were burned down because they rented them to black people. They'd go in and torch the house, and then the people had no place to live. And then the government had to start making places available. But when they did that, then there was another argument they had. We were bettering the blacks than we were the whites.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a scary time.
I know some parts of Oregon, even now, there's more Native Americans that live in some parts than black people. Like there'll be something like 3% of the population's Native American and only 1% is black.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Florida, it's usually 30% is black. So just to give you an example, there's 30 times as many, you know, African American people in Florida than some parts of Oregon. And I actually worked with a German guy who his mother is American, and she was born and grew up in Southern Oregon, like very out in the middle of nowhere, nothing but farms and a highway.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know, back then and still some places now, if a black person comes to a gas station, they just come out and they say, you know, you better keep on going. There's no gas for you here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the way it was in Rockville. They couldn't ride the buses, even in the store. You know, like I told you at the time, you're going through Heck's department store in Silver Springs. Maggie was my friend. We worked together. And she was black and I'm white. And when we went in, there was, you know, how people were just cluttering around and you hear all this chatter. The more into the store we got, and we were going to the escalator to go up to the second floor, they were quieter and they were just standing. Well, I thought there's something wrong with me, and I kept pulling up my clothes, you know, and back then our hose had this, they sewed them together, you had to seam up the back, and that was supposed to be, there was the